Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease. Score!
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, brother?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for coming and hanging out with the Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And as always, we are joined by the two Matts. Matt Casey, what's going on?
Hey-o.
And Hoagie. What's up, brother?
What's going on, everybody? I'm back after a week. I missed you guys.
Yeah, not
Wish we could
likewise.
say the same.
Yeah, that's not what you said earlier, John.
No, I'm pretty sure no one believes that I said I missed you. Just saying.
I have record of it. I have a recording. I have a text message. Multiple sources there can confirm John did miss Hoagie. But neither here nor there. We've got a full show. And by full, I mean two topics that are going to take up the entire hour here. And I think we need to get into it. But first off, I mean, is it even worth recapping what happened this past week?
No. People had COVID. We sucked. Over.
Can I ask a question though? Like,
That's my job.
looking at next week, are we getting like the other 4 COVID cases back, like for sure before Tuesday?
Doesn't matter.
We get Drew and Proby tomorrow.
Drew and Provy, and then Sanheim and Konechny should be Tuesday, right?
Monday or Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday they play Carolina.
Right. So
Well, we didn't ask for the game schedule, Derek. We asked if the teams if the players
Well, they
are
don't
gonna
play
but thank you.
Monday. They play Tuesday.
because
I mean-
they tested one day apart, right? They tested positive one day apart. So hopefully,
Right.
Something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll
mathematically speaking.
Yeah.
Except the only bright spot of this week was Lawton getting an A for these 3 games. Next captain in the running right there.
Is he your cousin or something? Like, are you related to him?
Absolutely not.
Are you sure?
Listen, if he was my cousin, we'd have more inside info.
I actually really like one of Cam York's comments, I guess, to the media last night. He legitimately said, "I tried my best."
Aren't we all?
Like, they should just all go up there. We're trying our best.
You get a gold star.
The Oprah Winfrey with the gold stars. You get a gold star, and you get a gold star. Thanks for participating. Oh, well, handful of those guys get gold stars and get sent right back to the AHL once these guys are healthy, which is nice. Maybe we're looking at a win. Maybe. I'm not going to hold my breath. But the big thing from this past week, really, and I mean, nothing to do with the play on the ice, but more to do with the organization itself. We're looking at the game on Thursday night against the Pens, 6-2 loss. No mention whatsoever of former owner Ed Snider's birthday. And it's been, I want to say, a few years that they have not mentioned Ed Snider's birthday. 5 years? I think John said 5.
2016.
It's been a long time since they've mentioned Ed Snider's birthday. And this was one of the years where it doesn't happen very often. His birthday fell on a home game at 7 o'clock start. What, John, what do you make of this?
I mean, I don't make much of it, and that's, I guess, because it's been 5 years. Like, I think it's really interesting that we're all kind of in a tizzy about it right now, but I haven't heard anybody in a tizzy on it the previous years, and it might just be because of the general disdain for the franchise. But I do think it represents, the complete removal of that family feeling that the Flyers once had under Ed Snider, when that would be a very Ed Snider move to kind of recognize somebody on their birthday. It seems right to kind of recognize the founder of the organization on his birthday. But I don't know. I really am trying not to get too much into it. It just seems to make sense for kind of the corporate brand that the Philadelphia Flyers are now. They're no longer this family friendly, we're going to be over here and shake your every single player's hand type organization anymore.
But isn't that concerning to you? I mean, growing up with this team the way it was and the aura and the culture that Ed Snider built within and around this team, does that not concern you at all?
I don't think concern is the word. I think disappoint. Yeah. I think that, it's disappointing that this team isn't that, but this is the world that we're moving into. You're finding a lot of these family-owned teams being bought up. Yeah, look at Pittsburgh, right? Didn't they just get bought up by not by Boston, by Fenway? They're not going to be family friendly anymore. It's just that shift. So it's disappointing, but concerning me, I got other things to be concerned about. That is just nowhere near on my list.
I understood. No, good point. What about you, Matt Casey?
Yeah, I'm with John. I think if this had been year one and everybody was in a tizzy about it, the year after he passed away, like I can understand that. To come at it year 5 and just everybody's now up in arms, it's like, is it messed up? Yeah, it would have been nice to do it. A lot of things, would have been nice for them to start the Hall of Fame ceremony when people were in their seats. It would have been nice, for a lot of things to happen. I think we all listened to, Chris Therien, and he tees off on this quite a bit, and he certainly has an inside perspective on it. And, take it or leave it. But, that family oriented and sort of like, hey, we're all in this together. It's a community. It's not just a team. It's a community. And that's why I think a lot of alumni stick around much more so than other NHL teams and arguably other professional teams. My thing is, okay, we can sit there and blame the corporate ownership, and I'm sure that's a part of it. My whole thing with this, guys, is where does Holmgren fall in on all of this? The one constant through the years, like baseball, James Earl Jones, voice, the one constant through the years has been Homer. And, he's obviously well-respected enough to go into the Hall of Fame. He's held every position within the organization from a player up to, coach, general manager, and now I don't even know what the hell his title is.
Whatever the hell his title is, yes.
Like, what is he actually doing if he isn't the curator of, like, the team culture and, things like that from above? Is a little bit to blame on that. If not, like, I think everyone's like, Dave Scott, Comcast, it's corporate now. It's like, is it though? I don't know. I think there's a missing link here that nobody's really touching on.
But to your point, though, I mean, you had mentioned how, the first year came and went, no mention of it. And then like, okay, 1 year, but like it has been 5 years and no mentions during any of those years. So like, that's where my level of concern lies because it has been so long. There has not been a mention of a guy who brought this team to Philadelphia, brought 2 Stanley Cups to Philadelphia, and consistently fielded, at least, before about 10 years ago, a competitive team and did whatever he needed to do to make that happen for the most part. So that's my concern with this. It makes me upset. Maybe I'm a little more fired up than you guys.
You're always, but you're a big anti-Dave Scott guy too. I mean, you've always kind of held that platform. I'm not poking fun either. No. That's always kind of been you.
Yeah, like you grow up getting used to the fact that this is like a family-run, business, if you will, and now you're seeing it being torn down from the inside, essentially. It doesn't sit well with me. But I mean, much to your point, John, it's like, what are you supposed to do? I can't, just write a letter to Dave Scott and be like, hi, Mr. Scott, I'm really upset with the way you're running this team. Like, you think he cares? No. But at the same rate, we should make him care. And there's only really one way to do that. But again, that could be another conversation. So, Hoagie, what are your thoughts?
Listen, I'm kind of glad that John and Matt went first because I had a whole list of thoughts that said I don't really care. I was ready to go on the defensive real quick, real early. I'll just say this. In the past 5 years since Ed Snider's death, we've only played on his birthday twice. And that the first one was 2018 against the St. Louis Blues, which they won that game. Regardless, it happens once every 6 years, twice every 6 years. They're not going to do
once every
anything.
3.
Whatever. Math is hard. I mean, at this point, like, there isn't much to do anymore. You have 4 players on this team that would remember Ed Snider for what he is. Giroux, Couturier, Lawton, and JVR.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Provy and Konechny because they were drafted in that term. But, like, a lot of this team and a lot of the people in the organization aren't going to remember them like those 4 guys are, and the way the fans are that have been fans for 20-plus years. So, I mean, at this point, it's moot. I'm tired. When I saw that tweet go out on Thursday night, I was kind of a little annoyed by it because it's the same group of people that have just constantly bashed Comcast over and over and over for every wrongdoing that sometimes it's not even in their control. Like, yeah, obviously, you know, you can pay homage to the man that started hockey in Philadelphia, but I waited till the 10-minute mark of the game to tweet this. Eat crow. Who cares at that point? That's just my thoughts.
And Dave Scott's got nothing to do with the Flyers Twitter account for putting out a a commemorative tweet.
It's a 24-year-old intern,
right? And Dave Scott also doesn't have any say on what what's his name says during the games either.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure.
That's like, yeah, maybe he can say, "Hey guys, let's do this," but like, he doesn't care what's going on during the games. Typically,
I think one of the underlining things though is like, all right, if you look, you know, for better or for worse, us as a franchise and arguably Philadelphia as a city, as it goes to the Flyers, like holds on to the past because that's basically all. That's all you got. And you know, the Phillies have won, the Eagles have won. Have the Sixers won
Absolutely not.
No. They made it to the finals that one year against the Lakers, but ever since then it's been
that was quite some time ago.
I don't think I've watched an NBA game since like the Reagan administration, so I wouldn't freaking know. But
I wasn't even alive.
But it's like, okay, we're looking back, and if this team was on the right trajectory and winning and things were looking good, I don't think anybody would say it's like, hey, it's time to brush the past. We've appreciated it. Like, you know, we're holding on to these alumni. They're carrying the torch. But like right now, everything's a dumpster fire. So everyone's just looking at every little thing to poke fun at. The end of the day, what solves is freaking winning. Like, win games. And, you know, that is, we're all pissed off. Like, we're all upset. And now we just don't know who to be upset at. And so it's like just a complete internal, like, you know, we're just devouring each other internally about stupid crap. And it's great. I'm sure they honor Mr. Snider in tons of different ways. So much so that, you know, there's banners up there. And, you know, I'm sure they do a commemorative thing on his death. Next year, I'm betting they tweet on his birthday. And it's like, okay. Good job. What's that going to change on the ice? Nothing. Like, win freaking games.
Let's not forget the fact that they wore a patch the entire season after his death on their jersey. Like, and it was the 50th anniversary since he brought the team to Philadelphia. So, like, what more could you want? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think what strikes me the most is the fact that not only was it the outrage on Twitter, but it was like centered around family member too, because you had Serena Snider, Ed Snider's daughter, tweet out saying, you know, failing to say happy birthday, Ed, is just another thing to feel numb about. This is an organization that abandoned any loving recognition of its history and replaced it with a voided soul. 10 seconds to shine a light on the banner. Is that too much? I mean, I think she's got a fair point. You know, 10 seconds. That's all it is. You know, 10 seconds is what it took the other night for Anaheim to score. You know, 12 seconds. 12 seconds. Oh, 12. Sorry, that extra 2 seconds.
But in honor of Anaheim's fastest goal. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like, I see where she's coming from there because, one, obviously it's her father, and two, she knows the magnitude of what he did and what he brought to the city of Philadelphia. So something like that, even in the slightest, just that little bang, hit the banner saying, you know, moment of silence for Mr. Snider. And then, okay, it's the gesture. It's because there was no gesture at all. There was a lack of any type of mention of it. And I think that's what gets me the most is that I don't need a big pomp and circumstance. You know, let's throw a parade, just some type of mention. Show the man the respect that he would have showed you. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think,
sorry, what day was it? That it was
Thursday, January 6th.
And I think I speak for Casey and Hoagie in saying that, like, he should be commemorated in some way, right? I mean, there should shine a light on his, on his banner. These things should happen, but at the same time, the general fan, not a family member,
Sure.
the general fan getting upset about this has a lot to do with just how poorly this team is playing. And the fact that like we cannot seem to find something to blame all of this on that works, that we've moved our way up to ownership, when I'm sorry, but that is the battle you're just never ever going to win. That's not going anywhere.
Sure. Here's the thing though, and I'm going to go on the other side of the spectrum here. 10 seconds
Welcome
in the
to the dark
arena
side.
one thing. The reason I asked for the digs, I was just scrolling through the Flyers Instagram account. It's like, so we all decided to say congratulations on Jake Voracek's 1000th game. Like there's no, it's not like the newspaper era where you have like one shot to make a deadline. It's like throw a tweet up. Like it's not. It's right. There's infinite space to reach the fandom and like do this stuff. So like in that respect, it's like it is a minimal gesture that you can do, and it's the right thing to do. But again, at the end of the day, we're all just pissed off about something, and we're looking for a way to channel that somewhere.
Yeah. It's like a kid who just doesn't know why they're pissed off, but they'll pick the closest thing and be like, that's why I'm mad. Right.
Like my kid, when I took him off sledding yesterday, he lost his shit.
Did he blame Dave Scott?
It's like this is the Flyers' fault.
Dave Scott, corporate,
he blamed Dave
ruining
Scott.
my sled time.
It all boils down to Dave Scott. Always. Kid threw a fit today because I took a snack away from him, and he's like, Dave Scott, first clear as day. Like that's the first time I've ever heard him say like two consecutive words.
Daddy's boy right there.
Sound like somebody else we know.
Fun fact, back to Casey's point here, the Sixers actually won a championship in the Reagan administration. That's from Hoax Hater 74. Yeah.
True story. So like my dad's company had like floor seats kind of by the basket when we were growing up, and I was probably 6. Freaking Charles Barkley lands on me, like full blown, like trying to get a pass, and lands on me. That was the end of my fanaticism for basketball and Sixers.
How are you still alive?
I don't. I mean, that
6-year-old
dude,
me. Good
that
God.
dude falls on me, then it's bad news.
So. Can I point something else out on this Ed Snider part?
Sure. Sure.
All these older guys that played under Ed Snider. You have the Joe Watsons, the Bernie Perrons, those types of players back in the 70s. They all posted their own individual birthday things commemorating Ed Snider. The one person that has been very agitated about Comcast and all the Flyers things is Chris Therien. Like he's the one that's like fueling this fire, and I think that stems down to Chris Therien just getting fired by Comcast a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like
makes sense, yeah.
I think that's just him, just trying to fight a battle that he's not going to win anymore. I'm sorry, I'll come out and say it. Like I like Chris Therien. He was a great color commentator for NBC Sports, but at what point you're not going to make a point anymore. Like you're just blowing hot air to blow hot air.
I mean, at what point is it the old man yelling at the clouds?
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean,
shock value.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Much to Hoagie's point, I enjoy his insight. I loved watching him on NBC Sports as well. I'm not even going to call it a shtick. I don't want to go that far and be a jerk about it, but like, yeah, it is kind of, it's like, man, I say it to myself because I get fired up about this type of stuff too, but it's like, what's the point? What am I going to do? Terrian's got more resources than I do, obviously, but like, what's one man going to do,
Yeah. And again, if they were winning, we're not even having this conversation.
Nope. You're right. And they're not winning.
Exactly.
And it's what they've lost their last 5. I think they've got 1 point in those 5 games. So, now there's reports coming out, guys like Elliot Friedman saying about trading Claude Giroux, which has been a never ending discussion this entire year, throws in a guy's name like Ivan Provorov as well. So now we're really venturing towards what's going to happen here. Like, is this going to be a full fire sale? Are we looking at a potential full on rebuild? Is it time? Is it time to start thinking about tearing it all down because something's not working right now? So, part of the bigger discussion here that we want to have tonight, obviously, is it time, A, which I think we're all in agreement here. We'll get to that here in a second. But then what's the plan of action moving forward? We're not going to talk specifics like we're going to get this for that guy or that for this guy, but what's the plan here and how are we going to execute it? So, John, I'm going to hand it over to you. I want you to start this off.
So I think that the term rebuild, right, it kind of gets over dramatized, if I'm saying that right. Dramatized. Sure. Is that a word? Yeah, sure. I think you can do that without blowing up everything. I mean, like, look at Buffalo, look at Arizona, look at these teams that just blow things up, complete sell job, right? And then they completely count on the draft and it gets nowhere. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to point to the Rangers, right? Look, the Rangers, they were able to rebuild in a shorter amount of time. Not every other team had Artemi Panarin and Adam Fox wanting to go to the Rangers, right? That was their choice organization. So I think the Flyers need to take an approach where, yes, they are rebuilding this team. They're changing this group up, but also selecting pieces that they want to hold on to. I mean, we're going to dive into this a little bit more, but there are some people who you want around in this locker room when you bring in younger talent. The Cam Atkinsons of the world, the Scott Laughtons of the world. These are people that you want to keep. And you're going to have Sean Couturier. Sorry. Like, whether or not you're all of a sudden down on Sean Couturier, he ain't going nowhere. But I think that there is a way to rebuild this team without a complete blow up. You can give it a facelift and make it look brand new. But I think you can do that without selling everybody, because that's just not realistic at this point.
So pointing out the opposite here, though, isn't that what we just tried to do this year? Because look at all the new faces that we have. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not picking a side yet.
No, but I agree with you. But guess what? You didn't get rid of Claude Giroux.
You're right.
Right? Trading Claude Giroux on your own, on its own, signals a change in regime. Right? And I think that you can get even more drastic, and you can pick and choose from players, a better selection of players now after what Chuck Fletcher did last year.
Sure. No, of course. It's kind of narrowed things down because Voracek was the problem. So we dealt him. And then, all of a sudden this guy, emptying salary, getting rid of Ghost, things like that.
And just to be clear, before we move on to someone else, I'm not saying like retool and likely be competitive next year. I'm just saying like you're rebuilding in a way where you keep a steady foundation that like it's not going to take too long. But I don't expect this team to necessarily flip the switch like they were hoping to do this past offseason.
Sure. Yeah, because that's what ultimately it was. Everybody thought all these new names, quality names too, guys like Ellis, guys like Atkinson, Ristolainen, to an extent as well. They thought that was going to be the one thing that was going to get this team over the hump, make them competitive. We got rid of the dead weight with guys like Nolan Patrick. Phil Myers was okay. He kind of soured on a lot of people towards the end of his tenure in Philly here. But, now there's a lot more at play with some of these guys. Giroux's contract is up. You've got guys, we'll talk about it here. I'll run a ticker at the bottom here too that has some guys that could be potential candidates. But,
let's see.
Right? I came prepared for this. I knew this was going to be a good discussion, so I wanted to be prepared. But Hoagie, so your take on this? What's your plan? I guess. What are we talking about here?
He's like, I don't know. What are we talking about here?
Well, to recap here,
I mean, I'm on the fence about this. I really don't want to rebuild. I also don't want to blow it all up. I don't know what to do, and it's going to be hard to trade a Claude Giroux with the no move clause in this contract. He's got to waive that. To even
do you honestly think he's not going to waive that right now?
I don't know with Claude Giroux anymore.
He's playing it with a pile of poop.
Yeah, and he's played with a pile of poop for 10 plus years. and he stayed around.
Dude, he's waving.
Wouldn't that be more incentive though for him to be like,
He's
yeah,
so
see ya.
waving that no movement clause.
That's
Here's
where
my
I'm at.
list of 10 Stanley Cup contenders. Chuck, make it happen.
Does he have it? Does he
10
even
years,
have a
man.
list?
They had 10 years to build around that guy, and they gave him dick.
Hey, now.
I mean, am I wrong here?
I don't know. I didn't see that footage.
I mean, he got some ass though up in what, Ottawa.
All right, come
What
on.
was that?
There we go.
I mean, listen, you're not trading Claude Giroux unless he waives the no move clause. But I mean,
No shit.
if
Hey, no.
you're, I'll kick your ass, John. I feel like Fletcher's kind of hesitant to pull that trigger because, you know, he has said it. I'm not fully bought into this, but he said, you know, we're a better team than what we're showing on the ice. So I think he's trying to wait till the trade deadline to see where this team is. If they're close to a wild card spot and Claude Giroux wants to say, hey, let's make this happen, let's push for the playoffs, I don't think he's going anywhere.
Do you really think this team's going to make a push for the playoffs, though?
You never know. I mean, granted, they're 4 points out of 4 points. It's 5 points out of the second wild card spot. Granted,
And Boston's got 4
Boston
games
has
in
6
hand.
games. It's 6 games. I looked it up.
6 games.
You're going off of Frank's tweet. Ha.
My bad. My bad.
It's 6 games. But still, Boston can't seem to learn how to win at home, which is highly confusing because I've been to Boston Bruins games at home. They're electrifying. They need to figure that out. So, I mean, if they can pick up some points against some Boston Bruins and some others in the standings, they could have a shot.
Get
They
out
have-
of here.
They have players coming
Get
back.
Out of here.
I'm not fully sold on rebuild / blow it up. Shut up, John.
You know what, Hoagie? I don't like your attitude.
You're fired.
Matt Casey, before things get even more out of hand.
Easy, girls, easy. Look, obviously, this isn't a good year in the year that we were hoping we were going to have with, you know, John used the term retool. And every time I hear that, I think of the Christmas Vacation. Go retool. I'll retool you. Like that's basically what we're getting. But we have had. I mean, look, it's not an excuse, but this is reality. This team was set up to be better than it is, and we have had from scrimmage 1 in rookie camp. We've had injury BS just come at us at an unprecedented rate. Forget the COVID stuff. And, you know, Ellis was a huge acquisition part of this. And I agree with getting rid of all the parts that we got rid of to get him. But the fact that, like, the quote unquote number 1 or 1B defenseman hasn't been available for more than 4 games is a huge blow to this team. Now, with that said, I do think it is time to retool. And I agree with John that you can't blow it up. Like it is contractually like impossible to blow this team up in the way that half-assed Twitter fans think that we can. Like you have big contracts in Hayes, in Coots, in JVR. You know, Sanheim just signed. Ellis is here for another 5 years at least. You know, Provorov, I think has 3 years left.
Provorov has 3 with 6.75 cap hit.
Right. So these are contracts. Like you might be able to move one, and God, I hope we're able to move, you know, at least Coots, or at least JVR or Hayes, because right now the two of them eating up like 13 or 14 million is making me friggin' sick. And you know what, JVR had at least a decent game last night, but you don't see any of those guys really stepping up in the absence of Claude Giroux or Sean Couturier or, you know, anyone else.
But
And
JVR just had two goals the other night.
Listen, he's bumping up his trade value. Also,
Right.
Hayes has a no movement clause.
So we're only going to have to give up a 3rd round pick now instead of a 2nd for someone
Right.
to eat that salary.
So look, maybe we can move one of them, maybe. And I'm not convinced we even can. Like, who's gonna want that?
Right.
What I want to get away from, and I think this is like a realistic part of a rebuild, is like, all right, say you shed a little bit of contract and you do lock up some of the people in here. What I don't want to have happen are the Yandles and the what's the other guy we picked up? Broussard. Broussard. Like, okay, they were good at some point, but like, I don't want to have our our depth guys as end of career depth guys. I want to have that as, guys coming up from the AHL that we have drafted who are trying to make a name for themselves, the Wade Allisons of the world and things like that. Like more of that. And in my mind, that's where like the rebuild is going to be realistic, is that, hey, you got to draft better. You got to get these guys in there. Cam York, I hope on January 25th, he is in the freaking lineup instead of Keith Yandel. And like, that is what we should be striving to do to help. And that's how you're able to get, the Rangers, drafted decently, and they got a couple pieces that were vital. Like, did they draft Shesterkin or whatever his name is?
Shesterkin, yeah.
It's like sometimes you got to hit with these things. And so I think this has been the perfect storm of, yes, COVID, every team's dealt with it, of injuries at a horrific amount within our team, as well as just a team that has not performed and been able to overcome that. It's been 2 years since we've seen good hockey, guys. And I think I'm ready for a change. I just don't know if it's going to be the massive blow up rebuild everybody's hoping for.
This team's not going to be where we want it to be in the next 2 years, in my opinion. Like, we're still sifting through the backlog of prospects that Ron Hextall drafted. The Pascal Laberges, which he's gone now, and then the Yerman Rubstovs, the guys that we did not hit on because Hextall wasn't that good at drafting. The people that he were supposed to be listening to, whether he did or not, it appears he did not, or else we'd probably have Cale Makar. It just didn't happen. And then, the smartest guy in the room here, he wants to be that guy, and he takes a Nolan Patrick over those other guys. He takes a Yerman Rubstov over whoever else was available. We're going to be sifting through these guys for a while. Now, yes, he brought us Konechny. He brought us Provorov, Sanheim even. I mean, he brought us Hart as well. He brought us some quality players, but there was no value later in the draft. Like the Jay O'Brien pick, good God. Who knows if that dude's ever going to even see the AHL at this point? Like, who knows? I hope. Yeah. But again, big reach. He wanted to be big brain Ron, and I'm going to take Jay O'Brien. No one sees this coming. No one saw it coming because no one was going to pick him in that spot. So we've got a little bit to sift through these guys until Chuck's guys come up. Chuck's guys are showing a little bit more promise, but again, smaller sample size than what Ron Hextall had given us to this point. But I didn't mean to cut you off there, John.
Well,
what's the deal with the Phantoms right now, by the way? Are they any good? Like, I haven't followed the Phantoms at all.
The ones that are still there, everybody's in COVID protocol.
Really?
Right.
Half the teams on the Flyers.
Yeah.
And that's a team whose strength is in their AHL veterans, which, is not really what you want to see. That's not good for your organization. But, I think we continue to talk about, where we want this team to be, right? Where we want this team to be. And obviously, right, we want a winner. But to me, where I want this team to be is, even if we are crappy, you know how many times I throw on a game and a crappy team still looks like they're giving it their all on the ice. And there's still these moments where it's like, oh, wow, that was a really good sequence. Oh, wow, there's a highlight play. You never get that with this Flyers team. This team just always looks bland as hell. So where I want to see this team is I want to see them competitive. I want to see them just playing games like they want to win. And I know we can't determine whether or not, they come out ready to win games or, with the desire to win, but they sure as shit don't look like it on the ice. So what I really think you need to do is you need to figure out who those pieces are currently on the roster that can help instill that kind of mentality. Your Ristolainens, right? I don't care that he's a UFA. I want him re-signed.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Yep.
Again, I'll say Cam Atkinson's name. These guys where it's like, okay, they are going to be the example we need. We need this to be the core that's going to say, I don't give a damn what this roster looks like, what situation we're going into. But at the end of this game, our fans are going to say, hey, they gave it all on the ice. Because that's what we don't have right now. And I think that while I'm putting quotes, rebuild, retool, if we could put a product similar to that on the ice, fans would be satisfied.
Because they're not used to seeing it, Right. It'll be enough to quench their thirst for the time being, but it's not going to be enough, for the end all be all. But again, that's how many years off.
You're right. I mean, yeah.
No, but if you get that mentality in the locker room, and I agree with you, John, I think that is like severely lacking. If you look at, I think in our group chat, somebody shot through the Penguins roster, and like, yeah, they have players that people know, but like 2/3 of their lineup, like you probably aren't gonna know, and that includes Malkin and Carter, who have been out for the most part. And so I do think there's a coaching aspect to this. And sorry, Mike Yeo, like, this isn't working either. And I think the next 2 weeks are it to figure out if Mike Yeo is the actual guy or not, if this team can actually play better. But, there are teams who aren't as talented on paper, who are just better coached and just buying into systems. And I think another big part of that is, the coming to play every single night. And I think Claude Giroux himself comes to play every single night.
But can he get everybody else?
Right. I just don't know if he is, and I'm not saying get rid of him, but I think you still need some more pieces there. Realistically, if Giroux goes, I'll be bummed out. I'm not going to pout one bit. I'm going to say, okay, like it was time to go. I get it, but I would love him to stay. But if he goes, I'm not going to be shocked, nor am I going to be sad. Like, it's like, okay, what's next? Let's try to use that salary and bring in a bona fide scorer. Let's try to do some stuff that this team is really missing. And maybe next year the injuries aren't a big of an issue, and we get rid of some of the bottom dead weight that we still have.
He's the first domino to fall, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think Giroux's gone first, and that's going to really set the market, because you're talking about a guy who in the last 10 years is the fourth leading scorer in the NHL, most power play points out of anybody in the NHL during that time period. You're looking at a not only proven commodity, but an excellent commodity, in my opinion. Any Stanley Cup contender would be lucky to have a guy like that, especially the ones that could use somebody on the power play.
And he's still relatively young. I mean, he's 33, 34?
Like, especially for just half a season.
Right.
Not even 20 games, if
20
that.
games plus playoffs. Why not?
And also, you don't have to move him this week. Like, you can wait until the week of the trade deadline when
the day of.
Like, his value will be higher.
When you should move him.
But no, wouldn't his value be? And this is a legit question, because wouldn't his value be higher if you could trade him now, because the amount of games that they'd be able to have him for?
Maybe, but also consider that right now, if you trade for him, you're paying him what they've played 30 games. You're paying him more. Like, that's more of a cap hit.
I think the Flyers will offer to eat salary to get it, like an extra pick or something involved, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they'll take on salary to make that a non-issue for a team.
You eat 25% of the salary this year, you're eating what, 2 million, 2.05 or something like that. Nothing. You're not eating much at all, considering what are we going to use the cap space for right now anyway, if we're looking at a retool / rebuild.
Yeah, you're not bringing
right now, we're just selling.
That, but like, you wait closer to the deadline too, the pressure's on. Like, the pressure's on those other teams to get that deal done. If they think that he's the missing piece, you're only paying him, X amount of what his actual cap hit's going to be. So he comes cheaper at that time as well. So then, maybe we don't have to eat salary. Again, I don't know. It would be more of an incentive. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But again, my point, he's the first domino to fall. And after that, God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you really look at the pending UFAs, who I truly think are the only ones that go before the trade deadline, I stick to this. It's very hard to trade players with term at the deadline. Who are you really looking at? Again, I think that the Flyers have to find a way to lock up Ristolainen. If he doesn't want to stay, then I think you can get a decent haul for him too. But who's the next best player? Justin Braun, I think will have a demand. There will be a demand for him, but you're not looking right. You're looking at like a third round pick, maybe.
Conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're looking at the ticker here. It's like, it doesn't necessarily need to be just a rental. Like, I mean, a lot of the contenders will be looking for rentals, but the Flyers have a plethora of quality players, some on better contracts than others, obviously. But, given the right situation, Hayes might be a good fit somewhere for a contender if they're looking for a quality 3C, but again, at a hefty price tag. So this might be a good opportunity for the Flyers to eat some salary to try to make a deal happen.
There's no way someone's taking Hayes, man. Like that
No.
guy's been.
Well, no,
that guy's
I'm not
been
saying it's like
He's got a no
realistic.
move
I'm just
clause.
saying.
Just saying.
money.
Dude,
and
everybody
play.
would want to be moved right now to play for a contender.
You
So
don't
stop
know.
with the no move.
He just
clause.
has it. He's
But
got to
he-
present it
He,
first.
he
before
would
you
have
do
to
it.
play a full season healthy in order for a team to be even sniffing at the idea to take that
If
contract.
your
And he
beer
has to-
league
and
team
he has to
sucked
play-
and you had a no movement clause, would you pull it to go play for the best team in the league if you had the opportunity?
Listen, he's not playing in the
Answer the
MHL.
question.
He's not playing in the MHL. He's not go playing in Dorchester. Where he freaking
Answer.
lives.
The question.
Listen, there's a reason why it's called the MHL. We're one letter away.
There's a reason why I keep asking you to answer the question because
And
you
there's a
haven't
reason
done that
why
yet.
he keeps deflecting because he's like,
'Cause
my
he
buddies
wouldn't
are on
be
this
able
team.
to
I can't
play.
do that.
I do. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
play.
I'd be like, sorry, I'm getting a cup. Peace. I'll see you guys when I see you.
Listen,
Yeah,
I'm just
but
throwing out the
seriously-
freaking contract.
But in all seriousness, though, Derek, with this list of names that you've got here, right? I think the only one that you could argue a team would even have any interest in bringing in this year is Provorov. They're not
These are
going to
just the
take.
highest priced guys. Like,
No,
I
no,
threw
no,
out the
no.
highest priced guys because these are the guys that could give us a little bit of flexibility.
And I don't know, but Konechny, I guess, could be put on this list too
What,
if
five
he's
and a
not
half?
on there.
Yeah.
But like,
Atkinson's higher than him, but again, that's a guy you want to try to keep.
but Sean Couturier hurt, right? Yeah, and his new contract hasn't even kicked in.
Yep.
Then you have Jade Van Riemsdyk, who
Jim,
Jade Van Riemsdyk. That's
oh,
not it.
Jimbo. Have you seen about Jimbo Van Riemsdyk?
I mean, why would you want him right now? Same thing for Kevin Hayes. I mean, if any of these guys get dealt, it's in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one player who might get I agree. I think TK might be the one that actually gets you something a pretty good amount. Like
Right. That's a
I haven't
hockey
been
trade, I think.
impressed with him at all this year or last year, quite frankly.
No.
So I don't know. Maybe it's time to move him.
I feel like his value has dropped significantly over the
You think
past
so?
2 years. He hasn't produced since that
Right.
shortened COVID season or whatever season. I don't
Right.
even know anymore. They're all COVID seasons at this point.
Social media teams around the league, though, are going to go bonkers for the guy.
I mean, do you blame them? We go bonkers for the guy, and it drives me insane.
But it is interesting too, because it's like the Flyers then run the risk of then do you have to pay to get rid of this guy?
Mhm.
Right? You
Right.
don't want to run into another ghost-esque problem where it's like
They've
You're
already
giving-
done that.
yeah, so and for now, a good TK is probably better than what you're gonna get in return.
Right.
For now.
Right.
True.
He's
For
not
now.
even a good TK. He's a subpar TK.
If,
So I said, you know
if
what
someone
I
if
mean,
someone takes
Mr.
Van
Noble.
Riemsdyk, oh
Mhm.
god, that would be
We're
good.
paying for it.
Yeah.
I think,
And
yeah.
what does he have?
We'll
One more
retain.
year? One more year
Yeah.
after this year?
I think one
Yeah.
more year after this year.
One
Yeah.
more year- he signed through 2023 with
Yep,
7
7
mil
mil a year.
cap hill.
Yep.
Cap.
Hayes has
Somebody
4
take
more years after this. 7.14.
See, I'm more willing to roll the dice on Hayes. I know I just kind of crapped on the guy, but it's like, okay, the guy just came off double core surgery.
Sure.
Like, give him a
Yeah.
full off season to like actually train versus rehab, and all of a sudden, like, I think you're going to see a different guy. Knock on wood. But with Van Riemsdyk, we've seen it. We've seen what we can get, and yes, he had 2 goals last night, but you know, I don't know. I'm just kind of for that amount of money. I
Right.
just, you know, you expect somebody at 7 million to really control a game. He's not controlling a game.
But maybe you can look at this too as the Flyers using this rebuild as a 2-year plan.
Mhm.
Like, okay, next year we are going to continue to build the foundation for what the following season is going to look like, because we are either going to be able to trade JVR at the deadline or he'll be off the books, right? I think at that point, Sanheim, is he off the books?
He'd be
Nope,
after
pretty
next year, yeah.
Right?
Oh, did he do 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-year
so, yeah.
deal.
I thought it was
So,
like a 3-year deal.
It gives you a little bit more flexibility. You have a little bit more time to maybe get some pieces that you can put in play.
Mhm.
Because next year, I mean, let's be real. How much different can we look?
You never know, man. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm
we
with-
could have said
I'm
that
with
last
Hoagie
year
a
and
little
won.
bit on this. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm with Hoagie on this. That like, I saw the team in 6, be the worst team in the NHL, and then go make a ton of offseason moves with Hartnell and Briere and those guys, and all of a sudden make, a semifinal run in the playoffs the following year. So, it can happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, a lot of things have not bounced in our favor this year. Maybe things do bounce in our favor next year, and it's not a guarantee, but a lot of things, it's luck. Sometimes it's just a situation and luck.
Sure.
But the team has to improve. There's no doubt about it. And I think a lot of that going back is the coaching aspect too. Is finding a coach that can actually reach these guys.
I think a lot of it too rests on the fact that we can't, or the people in charge, I should say, can't look at the injuries as an excuse and say, oh, we just had a bunch of injured players. No, it's okay. We're going to get those guys back next year, presumably. But we can't rest on that and say, well, the rest of the roster, it's okay. Because it's not. They exemplified that continuously so far this year.
And when Chuck Fletcher decides, all right, we need depth, he just looks through everybody who has Minnesota ties. He's going to have to eventually change that game plan a little bit.
Just a little bit. No, it is it's very frustrating considering the injuries that have accrued. You're looking at Ellis playing 4 games this year. You're looking at Hayes, Brassard, a lot of centers, and Couturier.
Yep.
So as frustrating as it may be, they can't look at that and just say, oh, let's just chalk it up to just terrible luck. No, this team drastically needs improved. And it's a matter of finding the right trading partner that can help improve this team. Maybe not just next year, but we're talking maybe 2 years. You don't want to go too far down the line and, bank on draft picks and prospects that you just don't know. But finding the right team, we talked about it in the High and Wide group chat today, finding a team like the Kings that have a lot of quality prospects that could pan out to be pretty good. Flyers have dipped into that well how many times now? It's something worth exploring. I think Josh, the one guy, brought up Gabe Velarde. Could be an interesting get if it's a part of a Giroux deal. Maybe it's something even bigger. Do you think that any of the names that are on our trading block, if you will, do you think that could end up in a package? Are we looking at maybe Giroux and Provorov or Giroux and Braun, as part of one deal as opposed to separate deals?
I mean, yeah, I think that's tough, especially Giroux and Provorov. That's a lot of money.
But
if you're doing it towards the trade deadline, if you're doing it towards the trade deadline, you're only doing one at a time. You're not doing blockbusters.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
I think the days of seeing the Leclerc, Desjardins, that kind of blockbuster deal, with
fun deals, if you will.
Yeah,
how boring.
Borderline franchise-changing deals. You just don't see them during the season anymore. You might see them in the off season, but
it's rare during the off season anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's I'm sorry, Derek. I
was going to move on. You're good.
When it comes to hockey, franchise-altering player-for-player trades. What's the last one that catches your attention? I just with Shea Weber and what was that? Adam Larson,
PK Subban, wasn't it?
Oh no, yeah, Shea Weber and PK Subban, yeah. And then there was Taylor Hall and Adam Larson, and it was the same week or whatever.
That's not even a blockbuster. There.
No, but you don't really see deals like that. Artemi Panarin for Brandon Saad, that was a stupid trade, Chicago.
It's all one for ones and nothing, where you've got so many moving parts that you're just your head's spinning at the end of the day. You're what just happened?
That's the NBA.
Future considerations.
That's that type of crap. Right. Yeah, that's what we got for Shane Gostisbehere. We don't know what that is yet. Maybe.
Can I ask a question?
Can you ask a question?
Can I please? It's a good question, Casey.
You just asked too.
But guess what? I'm gonna have Derek answer it first. So say this team continues to, go on the downward trend this season, right? Obviously, we need a new coach, right?
So part of the course is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. Part of the course. Is Chuck Fletcher the GM that's going to lead this rebuild? Because I think that's a legitimate thing to consider. I personally think that this guy's done enough to show that he gets a little bit, but I'm curious what other people think. If we have to go into rebuild mode, do you completely just scrap up the leadership too and start completely fresh, or do you give Chuck Fletcher a shot?
Well, Chuck Fletcher's been good at keeping this team somewhat competitive when there aren't excuses, if you will. He's been decent at that. Yeah, well, now this season too, if you want to count injuries as an excuse. He's been decent at that. Does that necessarily determine whether he's going to be good during a rebuild? I don't know. Like, he made the moves, and I've got confidence in him, but that's a totally different ball game when you're talking keeping a team competitive as opposed to rebuilding a team. So again, without knowing who is on the market, who would, be an expert when it comes to that type of stuff, if you want to call it an expert, I don't know. I think you give him a year or two to see. If he makes the right moves the first year, you see it on the ice, you see it in the locker room, give him another year. If he makes the moves and they look like crap like this year, maybe he's not the guy. But I think he has bought himself a little bit of time. Now, not as much as he had about a year ago, but, I think he's bought himself a little bit of time to see at least, where it might go from here.
Right. Casey, how about you, man?
I'm with you. I think if you look at one person in this franchise in the last year who's actually done his job, I think it is Chuck Fletcher. And he did his job, and his job ends on paper. Yep. Where the job has failed is on the ice and with coaching. Now, look, sure. He did make the hire with Alain Vigneault, and that obviously didn't work out. And so I think his biggest offseason move is going to be the coaching move, hands down. And I think I agree. I think he has earned the right to give this another year or two, but he's got to have a set plan going forward. And I think you saw him have a plan last offseason and him executed on it.
Sure.
Almost to blowing us away. Holy crap, what did he just do? And right. Even as the season started, didn't like our fourth line, didn't like our toughness. Bring in Zach McEwen, bring in Patrick Brown. Who the hell else do we bring in? He's always tinkering. And so I don't think he's under the delusion that this team is good. And so I think he knows that he needs to do it. He's ingrained in it. He's clearly willing to make the moves and knows that he has to. So I have no reason to let Chuck Fletcher go, because to this point, he's been the only competent member of this Flyers team.
Somebody playing Brick Breaker over there? What's going on? What's that noise? Hoagie, you over there playing Snake? What's going on?
Just waiting his turn.
All right. Well, Hoagie, I was going to skip you completely, but I guess you look bored over there.
You can absolutely skip me if you want, but I'm just going to dive right in. I don't think if we're going into full rebuild mode, I don't think Chuck Fletcher's the man to do it. He's good for retools and for building championship teams, but I don't know.
Is he though? What championship team is this guy built?
As you said that, we just lost a viewer.
Listen, we don't know what would have happened during the 2019 season. God, is that long?
You're right.
Oh gosh, we don't know what had happened. They were streaming so upward that we don't know. So I mean,
we just lost another.
But we wouldn't know what my life would be like if my mother loved me, and it's still neither here nor there, my friend.
Guess what? Yeah, true. But I don't think he's the one to pick the pieces to either trade out or bring in for total rebuild, or regardless. I think he's done what he's done for this season in a good way, like Casey said. He's done what he's had to do, and he's identified problems in the lineup where we all saw were problems. And I mean, it's worked out so far, but I mean, I'm just waiting for the excuse, COVID screwed us in the middle of the season.
COVID screwed everybody. That's not an excuse anymore. I'm getting tired of hearing that crap. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you.
But I'm just waiting for that excuse to come out, because that's AV's not here anymore, but I'm waiting for Fletcher to come out and say, COVID hit us pretty hard in the middle of the season. We couldn't keep up with everybody else. It's because we never had any games postponed. But
so real quick, how many moves do you anticipate being made, Hoagie, at the deadline this year, I should say?
Oh, I was going to say when.
Just from now until about 50 years from now.
Going up
until
to
the day you
deadline,
die.
I'm looking at 3 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Casey?
I was going to go 2-3, and one of them I can see being major. The other ones I can see Justin Braun or one of our fourth liners or third liners, like a depth guy going. But I see one substantial move. I just don't know who it's going to be. It might be substantial to our mind. The rest of the NHL is going to be like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
John?
3. Claude Giroux, Justin Braun, and Martin Jones.
Yeah.
You think Jones is going? All right.
I do, for some goalie depth. For why not, man?
Send him to Carolina. Right now.
Yeah, he can join Alex Lyon, another Flyers cast off.
What about you, Derek? Where do you lie on that?
I hate to agree, but I'm with John. I hate agreeing with that. I had that in mind. I'm like, Martin Jones is a solid get for a team that could be looking to shore up the goalie position. Braun will be another guy you can put on a third pair. That's but I mean, at the same rate, Sandstrom played well against LA. Was it LA or San Jose? San Jose. I'm sorry. Played well enough.
You're forgiven.
Yeah.
So
and then Claude Giroux, absolutely. I really do think he's gone. All personal feelings aside, I love the man. I'd die on that hill. I think he's one of the greatest Flyers of all time. It's a business decision.
Yep.
And it boils down to that.
For him too.
Yeah.
I'd like to pose a question real quick.
Oh,
Do you guys think Giroux is a Hall of Famer? NHL Hall of Famer?
An
This
NHL Flyers Hall of Famer.
Do we have
This was
time for
posted on
this?
Reddit today, so I just want to hear yes or no.
NHL Hall of Famer, I said no.
So the way the NHL does things, it's like a good old boys club. I feel like that you never know, but just on who should be in the Hall of Fame, then no.
This is going to be revisited in the offseason. I'm damn certain of that. I say yes.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. Personal feelings aside, I think what he's brought to Philly and the fact that
All personal feelings.
it's not personal. If I was on here spewing
Eric's about to
personal
get the
feelings,
belt
I'd
out
let
and,
everyone know
weird.
how much I hate your guts. But that's neither here nor there.
Dear
Dear John, suck my... No.
Oh, it's a Dear John letter here.
Dear John, it's been 7 days since we've spoke last on the podcast. No, I mean, again, I think he does, but who knows? I don't know how they vote. It is what it is. Any lasting thoughts on the trade deadline here?
Nope. It's still 11 weeks away.
Yeah, we got a while to go on this, man. That includes, I think,
Lots of hockey.
the Olympic break is going to be the time. I don't know how much of a break there's going to be now. Like, I'm assuming they're going to throw some more games within there. Now that they're
A lot
not
of
going,
makeup
but-
games, I'm sure.
They're all be
But
playing
like,
a lot of
I
games.
think that's when a lot of
Games.
like cigar and whiskey room negotiations are going to happen with GMs.
Right, except for Canada, because Canada's just going to be on a back-to-back kind of game.
I don't know.
6 games in 7 nights. All right, Hoagie.
Jesus.
Are you ready to hit us with your dad joke of the week?
Absolutely.
Hit us with your dad joke.
We should have some music playing for this, like
Yeah,
the intro to the dad joke.
Let's just get Casey to record that after the show.
There we go. What kind of tree can you fit in your hand?
Wouldn't you like to know?
A palm tree.
You got it, Derek.
Oh, you loser! You
Lame.
best.
Lame.
I would just really quickly like to share this comment from our Russian
Vom.
listener, Vombrent. Thank you.
Any insight on Rupstov? How's he doing?
Streaming live from Chechnya.
Who's that defenseman we drafted years ago that's like huge and he's still playing over in the KHL? Vasily something?
Vasily Vasilyev.
Yes, Vasilyev. How's he doing? That's what I want to know.
He's like 30. He's our only 30-year-old prospect in the in the pipeline.
He's like Billy Madison, hanging out in the kindergarten class.
All right, can we say goodbye now?
Yeah, let's say goodbye. But first, I want to shout out to our affiliates here.
I want to see.
We got Flyers High and Wide. Everybody over there. They're on Twitter at FlyersHW. Guys over at 5 Minute Major 2 as well. David Mastro over at 5 Min Major Pod on Twitter. Those are our affiliates. John, take it away.
You can find this beautiful podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, YouTube, Deezer, and all the other ones. If you want to find a new spot for us, I'll see you later.
Wow.
Yeah, good idea. Hoagie, where are they going to be able to find you?
Hey, Junior.
Pod Street Hose on the Twitter handle.
And Casey.
You already know, Pod Street Casey.
I thought we were getting away with not doing it this time. I thought Derek finally.
That's
no.
just you and I, John. We're boycotting on our previews.
Screw it.
Oh, no, man. I got to hear Matt Casey let everybody know where they're going to be able to find him.
Yes.
There it is. All right. You can find me on Twitter at Pod Street Bob. You can find John on Twitter at Pod Street Go. You can find all four of us on Twitter at Pod ST Bullies. But until next week, we got a couple games to suffer through. So enjoy, folks. It's going to be a great week.
Bye now.